Okay, all right, guys. Good morning, everybody. The 11 students. I'd like us to welcome to 2020-2021 session. It's probably your first class, but before we start talking about anything, I'd like us to look at the synopsis. For week one, we'll be having the CPU, computer files, managing files, the internet, logic gates. I know we talked about this in grade 9, logic gates, so we're talking about it again. As a matter of fact, the first topic, the CPU has something to do with logic. So productivity software, then we have presentation package. Okay, because of time, and I don't want us to have a bulky video. I'd like us to look at the first topic, which is the central processing unit, the CPU. The central processing unit is the CPU. Okay, so first and foremost, can you pardon any background noise you might hear? I'm actually trying to do this recording in the school. Okay, number one, the central processing unit, the objectives are know how to list the components of the CPU. Know how to list the components of the CPU. Then number two is state the functions of the ALU and the control unit. That's number two is state the functions of the ALU and the control unit. Okay, the ALU is the arithmetic and logic unit, and the control unit will normally be called the CU. Okay, so now let's look at this. I'll try as much as possible to add a few videos for us so that we understand. When we look at the first sentence, just below the objective, it says the CPU is the part of a computer system that is commonly referred to as the brain of a computer. Yes, it is the brain of the computer. It tells the computer what to do and how to do it. You understand? You remember that we have the system unit and we have the peripherals. That is the hardware part of the system. Now, the system unit is comprised of the motherboard and other components. On the motherboard, you have the CPU. So we'll try to look at one after the other. Meanwhile, let me show you a little video on the CPU so that before we continue the class. All right, before the video, I'd like to explain to us how the CPU works anyway. Okay, the CPU, the central processing unit, in a nutshell, is made up of different components. Actually, before the 70s, the CPU used to be way larger. Because it's made up of this control unit and the arithmetic and logic unit. You know, the CPU is made up of the control unit and the arithmetic and logic unit. Okay, also has a storage, the memory unit also. Okay, they all perform different functions. But after a while, no way. You can pick a call. Pick a call first. Pick a call. Really? Maybe they need help.
Yes, you do. Well, I've given them everything that they need to know. Sorry, sir.
No problem. It's up to you. Once I could just let me know. Yeah. Are you calling me now?
Yes.
Okay.
He's not picking.
Maybe he wants to call you back. Okay.
Mr. Mike. If it's for dying and bleaching, you can't give him anything because it's for dying and bleaching. We won't do anything. But the only thing you can do is, you know, we did tie dye. If you go to that cupboard, you see some works. But I don't know if they'll bring it back. But you can take some works from there to shoot display that is his own. Yes, inside that bottle. We have some, yes. But let him bring it back, but there's two works now. I can't remember again. So you see materials like tie-dye works. Those are the words. If you see tie-dye works, materials like dyed. Yes. You see the thank you, sir.
Wait, okay. All right. So that was what it looked like. Then, but in the 70s, we were able to compress the CPU so that we had it just like the microchip. So it's the reason why the central processing unit is also called a processor. You know, it's a processing chip that actually determines everything that happens around your computer. The truth is that your computer can never function without a CPU. It will never be able to do what it needs to do because you remember that it takes instructions. You know, it gets its instructions once you make it, when you click on anything on your laptop or once you tap on anything on your device or your Android, that thing, that tapping is an instruction. That instruction is sent to the CPU so that the CPU will now trigger your request. So take for instance, this video I'm currently making, you can see me. Before we can make this video, my camera must work. So once I click on start camera, you know, once I do that click, that instruction is sent, you know, down to the CPU, and the CPU can now tell my camera, you know, to come on so that I can see it working. And if it is not working, the CPU also knows what to do to tell me that my camera is not working. It probably will tell me the reason why the camera is not working. So the CPU more or less like it's a brain. It does almost everything that happens, every instruction that you present to the system. Okay, so let's look at it extensively because there's no way you can, okay, there's no way we can do anything on the system without a CPU. So I'm going to show you the video now and we'll continue with the class in a minute.
In this video, we are going to discuss what is a central processing unit, commonly abbreviated as CPU. The CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. The CPU is one of the most important component within the computer system. The CPU is also alternately referred to as a processor, central processor, or a microprocessor. It is the CPU that actually provides the processing power to the computer. The CPU works at the lightning speed and performs millions of calculations per second in order to execute any program. The CPU is said to be the brain of the computer system, where all the arithmetic calculations and logical operations take place. The CPU handles all the instructions it receives from various computer hardware components and also from the software applications running on the computer system. The CPU chip is placed on the motherboard into the processor socket with locking mechanism.
Right there.
The processor chip is firmly placed into the socket on the motherboard. A heatsink is mounted on the top of the processor chip, which protects the processor chip from excessive heat generated. Let us now discuss the internal structure of the CPU. A processor is basically an integrated circuit chip. The microprocessor chip, that is CPU, consists of millions of IC chips packed in a single processor chip. Each IC chip consists of millions of tiny components called a transistor. The transistor is made up of silicon, which is a semiconductor material.
Okay, at this point, I probably have to pause so that I can just explain a few things to us. Okay, you remember when we did the logic gate in our grade 9? You remember the AND gate, the OR gate, the NAND gate, and all of the gates we did in grade 9. Okay. So this is where they come into play. They're coming to play in the CPU and other circuits. You know, so that's where they actually function. You can see here on this left part where you have the ON. You can see where you have the ON right there. Okay, so it means that stands for 1. You know, the computer only understands digital language. That is the on and the off, that's zeros and 1. Okay, so this is the on actually there. You can see that this means on, and this actually on the left side with my blue selection is actually the off. So this is one of the applications of the logic gates we did in grade 9. I remember if I told you guys that. For some of us who did in grade 10, we did the practical on diodes. You know, the project we worked on, water gauge. Remember when we talked about ICs and diodes? So you can see that CPUs are made up of millions of tiny transistors, and each transistor functions like a switch. You know, can be on and off. So we have millions of that in your microprocessor. So in essence here, what I'm trying to tell you that what makes up your microprocessor, what do you have inside the CPU? What are the components? I mean the physical components that are inside the CPU and how do they work? That's why. So if you break it open, you probably see tinier than what you're seeing here under transistors anyway. Tinier than this part, yes. Tinier than this part because they're already, you know, embedded, broken down, so tiny, and you have it there, but they all still perform the same function, such as what you have here. So we'll proceed with the video. And,
the transistor is a basic building block and functions as a micro switch that can be programmed to represent two states, that is either on or off. And for this reason, the CPU understands only binary code consisting of 1 and 0, which represents on and off. The processor controls all the activities of the computer system, and therefore it is referred as the brain of the computer system. Let us now discuss the CPU internal architecture. The CPU internally consists of 3 main units. First, arithmetic logic unit.
Yeah.
Second, control unit.
Yeah.
And third,
memory unit. Yeah.
The arithmetic logic unit of the CPU performs all the arithmetic and logical operations. The control unit of the group controls the functioning of all the internal components and other devices connected to the system.
Control unit controls.
The memory unit within the CPU
every peripheral
high-speed memory that is used by the GPU to store the data. Each GPU internally implements an architecture and supports a set of predefined commands. This set of commands is referred as instruction set architecture of the CPU. Let us now discuss how CPU executes a computer program.
So let's look at what happens when you send the program,
loads the program
command
into the main system memory.
Yes.
RAM. The CPU continuously performs instruction cycle, which is also referred as machine cycle. The machine cycle consists of 4 basic operations performed by the CPU. These 4 instruction cycle operations include:
One,
first, fetch.
Fetches the instruction
Second,
you give to it,
decode.
breaks it
Third,
down,
operate.
then it performs
And
it
fourth, store.
and stores
The
it.
instruction cycle is the basic operation of the CPU. The CPU repetitively performs the instruction cycle to perform the different operations. The CPU market is dominated by 2 players. That is, Intel and AMD. These 2 US companies produce and control most of the processor market. To summarize, the GPU is the most vital component which provides the processing power to the computer system. That brings us to the end of this video tutorial, and in this tutorial we have
Okay, so I'm sure you've been able to get more information about the CPU here. I'm going to drop the link to this video for us also, so that you can also go back there and watch it from time to time. Anyway, so let's go back to our notes and see if what we have to talk about is the same or similar to what we have here. Okay. Okay, so here we can see the CPU is a microprocessor and is responsible for executing sequence of stored instructions called programs. You know, remember programs are also softwares. So, so when you send an instruction to the system, the CPU is responsible for actualizing what you said you want to see. Okay, so this program will take inputs from an input device. Remember input devices? Your mouse, your joystick, your touchpad, your any input device. So you tap it in, the instruction goes in, and and says takes input from input devices, processes the inputs in some way, and the output results to an output device. So you see, so CPUs aren't only found on desktop or laptop computers. Many electronic devices now rely on them for their operation. Yes, your mobile phones, your DVDs, or most of electronic devices today must have a CPU, especially if they actually have a part where they perform an instruction all by themselves. Excuse me. Okay. So it says, so when you're looking for the specification of the computer at your local electronics store, it's typically referred to as CPU or the processor. Please don't forget that the CPU, another name for the CPU, is a processor or a microprocessor. So now let's look at the components. What makes up a CPU? Yeah. So I already said that before. The first, the CPU is made up of components, different components. First is the arithmetic and logic unit, which performs arithmetic functions. That's what the arithmetic and logic unit does. Your calculations, your measurements, and a few other things that has to do with numbers. It's typically handled by the ALU. Then the second one is the control unit. The control unit is responsible for controlling activities, especially devices that are connected, excuse me, that are connected to your device, to your main system. So the control unit actually does that. It controls everything. When you plug in your flash, the control unit is there to respond to realize that, oh, the new flash has been added to this guy, and tells you, oh, your flash is there. What do you want to do? You want to scan it or you want to use it? So that's what the control unit does. So there's a strong synergy between your operating system and your control unit. We'll get to that point when we talk about the operating system later. Not in this topic though. So it says it reads and interprets instructions from the memory. Please, this part is very important. It reads and interprets from the memory. Yeah, because there's a strong interaction between your CPU and your internal memory, which is your RAM. Remember when we talked about memory in grade 10? So your RAM is there. What's your RAM? Remember, it's a volatile storage system that keeps information temporarily. So yeah, when you send an instruction, like take for instance, like I said earlier, once I send an instruction, say, okay, start my camera. The RAM holds that instruction because you don't want to just keep bombarding your brain with all of instructions, the ones you want and the ones you don't really want. So the RAM holds the instruction until the CPU is ready to process it. So it comes in the first come, first serve process like. So there's a strong synergy between your control unit, also between your CPU and your RAM that keeps holding the temporal instructions and for the CPU to use from time to time. So it says, so where are we? It reads and it says, second is the control unit, which manages the various components of the computer. It reads and interprets instructions from the memory and transforms them into a series of signals to activate the other parts of the computer. Yeah, so that's how it happens. So the control unit calls upon the arithmetic logic unit to perform necessary calculations. So yeah, so once the control unit realizes, oh, this function is not mine, it's something the ALU has to do, it assigns that to the ALU. So I already said this part earlier, saying yes, before in the 70s, the CPUs can be separate component, but from the 70s on, started having PCs, smaller forms of PCs. Then we started having microprocessors because we're integrated together. Remember, that was like the third, fourth generation when we started having integrated circuits. So the fourth generation used vacuum tubes and on and on like that. So we have the individual components of the CPU have become so integrated that you can't even recognize them from the outside. Yes, so all that, those transistors, all those diodes you saw in the video are now so compressed into one small chip, very small chip, and it's always on your device. The CPU is about 2 inches. Your 2 inches. 2 inches is like half the size of your finger. The length of your finger. Is like about 2 inches by 2 inches in size. So you can imagine all those diodes compressed into that. So now it says the processor slots and sockets. Yes, the CPU has a slot where it sits on, and that slot is on your motherboard. So that's why you have to have fix the CPU on. And once you fix the CPU on it, then you have the heat sink. The heat sink is because your CPU is like it gets hot. In fact, one of the major reasons why the system is always hot is because of CPU. Because once it performs all those functions, it gets to transfer heat. So you need the heat sink to cool it down and help pull heat out of it. Otherwise, you probably have explosions from time to time. It's like a human. When you think of something too much, remember you probably have your headache or you probably start running temperature. So something like that. So it says as an integrated circuit of incredible complexity. The CPU is plugged into the motherboard much the same way as other integrated circuitry. So let me try to show us if I can do this for us. So here I have a system unit, and I hope you can see that it's already opened, and I'm going to try to show us how it works. So you can see in there that I hope you can see that that is the motherboard in there. I would have actually detached it before the first over. It's okay. So that's the motherboard in there. So you can see that's the heatsink right there, sitting on the motherboard, covering the CPU down so that the heat is actually pulled out of the CPU when it gets hot. So you can see that this is the whole motherboard, and you can see on the heatsink right there doing the job which is expected. So don't forget, this is a system unit. Everything here you have is a system unit, complete system unit that you connect a peripheral to. Okay, so yeah, so once you have a practical, because I'm going to show you that practical, I also have to show that so you can see. So the CPU is generally covered by a heat sink. As you can see that a heat dissipative component that drains heat out of the chip. Very, very important. They also have some questions. The latest high-end CPUs include their own built-in refrigeration system to keep these speedy processors cool. Yeah, so now we have even higher versions of CPUs that you have in your laptops or sorry, smaller devices that help them cool, refrigerate the CPU. So you don't have those kind of big fans sitting on your CPUs. You know, now if you have smaller devices, you have CPUs as well, but you have technology that helps to, you know, cool down the CPU, right? So let's look at the primary functions of a CPU. It was also in that video I showed you earlier. So what does it do? So the CPU contains two subcomponents, yes. Control unit and arithmetic unit. Then the control unit, under the direction of an embedded program, switches from one stage to the next and performs the action of that stage. So the first steps of the machine cycles are: one, fetch. You know, it fetches the next instruction from the computer's RAM or memory, cache memory. That's cache memory. Yeah, so that's the first thing it does. So like I said to you earlier on, the temporary memory with the RAM holds your instruction and waits for the CPU to say, okay, I'm ready to run this one. So once the CPU is ready, the CPU fetches that information from the RAM. Now does this next step, which is decode. So it breaks it down. You know, once you get that instruction from the RAM, it breaks it down, you know, into a form that the control unit understands. So once the control unit understands the language, it looks at, okay, who do I give this instruction to? Is it a calculation? I give it to the ALU. Is it for me to turn on camera for somebody? I give it the camera. Is it for the printer to print something? I give it the printer. So it actually does that, and that happens. Like I said before, there's also a strong communication between the operating system at this point. We'll talk about this when we get to the operating system topic. So now it executes. That's where you have execution of the instruction that has been given to it. Then at the end of the day, it stores the result in an internal register, a location in the CPU. We saw that in the video as well. You know, okay, that's where you have the section in the CPU that stores this information of the activities that has gone on, the log of the activities that have gone on. So let's look at the control unit in this part. So the control unit is a component of a computer's central processing unit that directs operation of the processor. I must have said this in passing before now. So that's what it does. You know, it directs the operation of the processor. You know, so like I said, the processor says, I need to turn on the camera. It is the control unit that's giving that processor the instruction. You know, if the processor, if the instruction says, I need to do some calculation, the control unit tells the arithmetic and logic unit, take over. You are the one to do this calculation. If the instruction says, I need to print something, the control unit sends it to the printer and says, you need to print something at this point in time. So that's all the responsibility of the control unit. It controls communication and coordination between input and output devices. You know, it reads and interprets instructions and determines the sequences for the process of processing the data. So those periods when you try to print something and you get a problem that tells you that this printer is not available, and probably because the cable was not connected to the printer, or maybe you were selecting the wrong kind of printer, that the control unit has been in work at that point in time. It gave the instruction to the printer couldn't reach the printer somehow. So it sends that feedback back to the operating system to tell you who's watching on your monitor. Don't forget your monitor is an output device. It gives that prompt to the monitor to say, okay, printer not found, or printer is offline, or you know, install printer software or whatever the right response will be represented on your monitor screen. So it says it derives the operation of the other units by providing timing and control signals. All computer resources are managed by the control unit. It derives the flow of data between the central processing unit and other devices. In modern computer designs, the control unit is typically an internal part of the CPU with its overall role and operation unchanged. Nobody can change that. Yeah, so that's more of the control units. Please, I'm going to give you the materials. So I'll always go back there to read through. So let's look at the arithmetic and logic unit. It says an arithmetic and logic unit is a digital circuit that performs integer arithmetic and logic operations. Yes, integer arithmetic and logic operations. So anything that has to do with math calculations, we talk about the it has to be with logic. Like take for instance, what is logic? Logic is to say things that are possible and not possible. Take for instance, okay, now you can see me because I'm using a particular app to capture my face using one camera. So take for instance, I want to all right, let me do this way. If I use a phone and I have a camera on my phone and I'm using my phone to take a selfie, the camera can focus on me at that particular point in time. But it will probably be difficult for me to have a camera focus on me at that point in time and focus on something else on the other end. You know, it will be very difficult to do that because the camera has just one eye. Logically, that will not work, except you have some kind of instruction that can help you. Probably have two cameras, so it's just like you have a human. I have my eyes facing me, so it will be very, very difficult for me to say I can see something behind me. So that defies logic. You understand? So things that are logically possible is determined by the arithmetic and logic unit. Do you understand? So sometimes you probably not be doing two things at the same time. Maybe you want to play a video and at the same time play music with the same app. Very difficult. Logically, it's not possible for me to use my mouth to sing two songs at the same time. I can only sing one song. You know, you can try it. You can sing two songs at the same time with one mouth. Very, very difficult. So that defies logic. So that's one of the things the ALU does. Okay. So they say the ALU is a fundamental building block of the central processing. That's Toby actually. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm doing it. Sorry, guys. Okay. Okay. Even the simplest microprocessors contain one for the purpose such as maintaining timers. Okay. Here's your timing. Right now, this video is counting time. That's a function of ALU. You know, the timing that's been recorded or it's being used up is being worked upon by the ALU. The processors found inside the modern CPUs and graphics processing units, GPUs, are commonly very powerful and very complex ALUs. A single component may contain a number of ALUs, yes, depending on the capacity of that component. So the inputs to ALU are the data to be operated on are called operands. Yes, every input that goes to the ALU, because normally it's mostly numerical, you know, are called operands, you know, so they are being operated on. All right, so that will be that for this topic on the central processing unit. Okay, so you can try to you can try the exercises below. It says explain the term central processing unit, and then you apply the components of the central processing unit. List and explain the functions of the CPU, and explain the functions of the ALU and the control unit. So you can attempt these exercises and let's see what happens afterwards. Okay, so once you're done with the video, if you have any question, next class I'll meet physically. We'll talk about that and look at the practical example of the CPU and other components. Thank you very much, guys. It was nice doing this video.